Democratic Alliance, was it a creation based on your personal need to lead the party or a circumstance of you leaving New Democracy?
Neither. The Democratic Alliance is a product of the political crisis in Greece. The crisis we live through is not only an economic crisis, it's mainly a political and social crisis, a crisis of values. So a lot of people who came together and created the Democratic Alliance want to try a new political model, an open party, a party which speaks the truth, a party which is far away from any kind of populistic rhetoric. And we believe that the Greeks today need to have this kind of party which is, gives them hope for getting out of the crisis.
Previously, as a member of New Democracy, you were affiliated with the European People's Party. While now, today, you have had meetings with the Liberal Democrats. Should we expect a movement for you to align yourself as a party with the Liberal Democrats?
Yes, we are much closer to the Liberal Democrats today, but this will be a party decision taken at our Congress at the end of May.
In Brussels, you were set to meet several commissioners. I know you have met Mr. Manaki and a few others. What was the aim of this visit and these meetings?
Well, the aim of these visits was to present our ideas about another kind of economic policy which would have much better results in Greece. So my main discussion with Olli Rehn was based on two ideas. One, that we need a revolution in the Greek tax system, that this tax system is impossible to have results, and that we cannot change the tax law every month practically, as we are doing today in Greece, and believe that we might have investment. So our proposition is a flat tax of 20%, and we believe that the flat tax of 20%, which will be paid by everybody, would increase the incomes, the tax incomes, and would allow the Greek business community to make the investment which is needed and produce also new jobs.
How do you convince Greeks who are suffering financially and politically to pay taxes? Even the 20% flat tax doesn't mean that they would get increased revenue in the government, for instance. So how do you really convince Greeks?
Well, I think that what we need in Greece is also a change of mentality. We must understand that without paying taxes, the Greek state will fail. And that if the Greek state fails, then everybody fails. So this is a very simple truth. But we have to go for taxes which they can pay. With 45% taxes on businesses, you will never get investment in Greece. So we need to be competitive also to the rest of the world. So I think this is a very simple idea, but an idea which was used and in Finland, for example, in Estonia, in Slovakia, and it worked.
Before we go deeper into the issue of Greece itself, I want to ask you something more related to the internet. This week on your Twitter account you wrote, "I am happy that WikiLeaks are coming out." What role do you think that organizations like WikiLeaks have in bringing transparency in politics today?
Well, look, I don't believe that every possible telegram on foreign policy issues should be published, honestly. It is sometimes very sensitive negotiations have to go on if you want to have any kind of results. Personally, I was happy about the WikiLeaks, egoistically, if you want, for the very simple reason that it showed the role some of the Greek politicians and myself played when they made foreign policy or when they described the internal policy in Greece.
You yourself are a very avid user of social media online.
Yes, and I hope you received enough questions from me at the Twitter.
Yes, absolutely. We had several, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere. But going one step further, digital diplomacy, how far away are we?
Not very far away. You know, I said once that the invention of the internet was the end of any dictatorship in the world. And this is true. People didn't understand, but we who lived through a dictatorship in Greece, and it was not your generation but mine, knew that practically any dictatorship survives when there is no communication and no knowledge. Now these questions cannot, this cannot be the case anymore around the world, in China, in Egypt, in Yemen. So there is another society, and we have to understand that. So transparency, if you like it or not, is part of the game. And in my opinion, I think it is the best thing which happened, at least in my life.
Now, in Greece you've been talking very harshly about government corruption. Did you see a lot of this kind of corruption while you were foreign minister and in other positions in the government?
Well, we knew that in Greece we had a vertical corruption, which means from up to down, and we knew also the price, and I was very often talking about it, even when I was a minister. And I think that there is one thing which no Greek can ever forgive: the sense that the political class has voted laws which practically do not allow justice to reach them. I'm happy to say that I never voted for this law. And I'm sure that now everybody, even in the Greek parliament, know that the sooner we change this kind of laws and also the constitution in that field, the better it is, because the credibility of politics will never come back as long as we do not have a very clear and a very clear picture of what we are doing.
Let's talk a little bit about the civil servants in Greece. There are reportedly more than 1 million people, around 10% of the Greek population. Every family essentially has someone in their family who is a civil servant. How many civil servants are needed to run a country of 12 million, and how do you propose to get this number without civil unrest, let's say?
Well, what we proposed is that we need in the next 10 years 2/3 of what we have today. This means that we have to go for a very strict plan with practically not getting anybody in. The government decided 1 to 5, which means 5 leave, 1 comes in. I believe that we have to go through nobody for a while so that we can get to the 2/3 which are needed. We need 2/3 of the civil servants better paid, and to make absolutely sure that they are doing their jobs and they are not corrupted. So it means another way of seeing the civil servants in my country.
So 2/3 of what we have today. How will you tackle the problem of rising unemployment as a result?
Well, because we believe in privatization of very big sectors of the Greek economy. But you don't need to have a very big public sector. The privatization will bring new jobs, and for some people they will allow to keep their jobs.
Let's talk about your party, Democratic Alliance. How do your party's political stances compare with New Democracy? Specifically, how would you say your party is on the political spectrum? Is it to the left of New Democracy? Is it to the right of New Democracy?
It's to the left of New Democracy, to the right of the Socialists. We are very clear about our views about the economy. We are a free market party, but on the other side, for us, it's extremely important that we keep the social cohesion, so that we have a very strong social policy, proposition.
If there is to be a coalition government in Greece, would the Democratic Alliance be willing to participate in such a government?
It depends. It depends on the program which will be needed. For us, we are not interested in getting ministerial chairs. We are interested in having concrete agreement about the policies which have to be implemented in Greece. So it will depend on any kind of partner, and of course of what the Greek people will say during the elections.
What is your outlook for Greece, your biggest hopes and your biggest fears?
Well, I'm a born optimist. I wouldn't be in politics if I was not. But I'm a born optimist, and I strongly believe that we Greeks, we will make it. It's difficult. It's the biggest crisis my generation went through. We messed up, honestly, and we have to change also part of our mentality. But the Greeks are intelligent. They are hardworking people. I know that there are a lot of people around Europe who do not believe it, but it's not true. They are hardworking people, and they are successful all around the world. If you look, the Greeks in the United States, the Greeks in Australia, the Greeks in Germany, the Greeks in Belgium, they are making, they're extremely constructive, they're paying their taxes, and they are doing very well. So it's not the fault of the Greeks, it's the fault of the system we built, a system of clientelism, a corrupt system. We must change the system and allow the Greeks to prosper.
And are you fearful for where this situation might lead at the moment?
I'm fearful because my fears are that the Greek political parties are still thinking in the way they thought before the crisis. There is no real progress which is made by the old political parties. And that's why we felt the need to create a new party with this new logic. And I hope that also the older parties will understand that we need a complete different approach, and that the old logic where we promised everybody everything to everybody before elections, and after elections we said yes, we are sorry, but there's no money around. This is out. This is dead with the crisis.
Now, a final question, somewhat more personal. When was the first time that you realized who your father was and what politics means in terms of running a country? And when did you know that you wanted to be in politics?
Oh, when did I first realize that my father was a politician? I think I was 10 years old.
And the gravity of it, what it really
Yeah,
implied.
the gravity was that I felt that our life, which was until then extremely well protected, because at the time there was no television, we didn't read newspapers because we were children, so we were very protected, that our lives depended on the situation in Greece. It was very difficult because it was in 1965 when a lot of people were against my father, shouting, and then I realized that this was my life, and it would be my life. Of course, the worst thing was when my father went to prison in 1967, the dictatorship, the exile, and then I realized that Greece's history is directly related to my private life. I like to be in politics, but not on the first, not the first role. It's funny when I say it today, but I was very much afraid of the media exposure. So I went into politics, well, after the assassination of my husband. So then I was playing a first role. But it was not my goal from the beginning. I loved being, just a person who works without having the exposure.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.